Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mars or Msrp 3D printer unboxing. So, yeah, well, this is the Mars. This is the regular Elegoo Mars. That's been out for a while. Now, this guy has also been out for a while, but like Kurt in chat is noting, this thing hasn't really been available, and just now it is starting to become available, more or less. You can pre-order it on 3D Jake, but everywhere else it's still listed as not available at this point. But it looks like in a month it should be available again. So yeah, because Elegoo are sponsoring an episode in the upcoming 3D Printing Basics series, and they wanted me to use the Mars Pro for this instead of the regular Mars. I guess it's as good of a time as ever to, get this thing out of the box, see what it does. I mean, I'm not expecting any surprises here, because realistically it's a Mars, which is a good printer, plus a slightly tweaked interface. The USB port is at the front. There's a new Z-axis linear rail system, and there is an exhaust filter going on. So, yeah, that's what this is. So it's basically a slightly upgraded Elegoo Mars. So I'm hoping that answers the question from Kurt. I guess let's go ahead and dig right in. So the goal today is to have a print out of this printer, so to get it printing, not just using the pre-sliced models. I've actually got something that I'm planning to print. Let me know if that's something that you want to see printed. I think that's a very good demo model. Norman, yeah, dude, have lunch. Like, if you had lunch planned somewhere, do that. Don't watch me take a print out of the box. You've seen that thousands of times before. Oh, Catherine Morton, yes, bringing up the Prusa Mini. If everything goes well, I'm actually going to have one of those here tomorrow, because Prusa are also sponsoring a portion of the 3D Printing Basics series. So I was like, dude, if you're gonna be a sponsor on those videos, we better have the Mini on there, not just the Mark IIIs. So yeah, that's gonna be a stream tomorrow. What is the price of this thing? So I think 3D Jake, actually let's look it up real quick. If we please, Chrome, maybe? Why no work? Here we go. 3D Jake Mars Pro, because they were the only ones that I saw it listed as available. So it's $299 plus shipping. 299 euros plus shipping. So if it becomes available on Amazon, they're gonna have their own price, but I'm thinking it's gonna be somewhere along those lines of being, around 300 bucks. So I think this guy is around 230 right now. All this stuff is linked in the description below, by the way. So it is a very affordable machine. All right. By the way, that is all that you get. The box, I think, is empty at this point. So this one is not included in the box, but we'll keep it here for, for reference. We're going to compare how they're built. We get a EU toolkit. Get over here, Stream Deck. EU, I guess that comes with the Schuko power cord then. That's the seal for the bottom of the lid. Yeah, EU power cord, standard Schuko. That one looks decently made. You get the drip tray. So this one is to actually attach the build plate to the arm and basically just have it at an angle. So your print's going to hang down here and it's going to be at an angle so the resin can drip off. We get a power supply, regular old 12 volt 6 amp. Was the old one a 5 amp? I'm not sure. This has an interesting texture on it, TDX power. USB drive jammed in there with the rubber gloves. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, roughly 7. A handful, literally a handful of gloves. A little measuring cup. Not sure what you're going to use that for. My link goes to the build platform. Well, crap. Yeah, 3D Jake are using a very weird shop system. Spatula, this is the common one. I've actually not found much use for these because what these are intended to be used for. Wow, that is zoomed in quite far, and that is very, very blurry. Please, camera, I'm giving you every chance you get. There we go. So this is kind of a scraper tool that you can use to, or should use to remove your prints from the build plate. These plastic ones I always found they're a bit too dull because as you can see I can press that quite hard into my finger. There's only a little bit of a dent. It's not actually sharp. So getting that under a print can be a bit challenging. So they've also included a metal spatula, which is, yeah, that's a bit sharper. Usually what I like to do is actually grab a blade from a knife like that and just really squeeze it under there because these are really sharp. So yeah, this looks like it's not a factory grind. This looks like it's been ground after the fact, but it is somewhat sharp. Then, when it comes to toolkit, we get a big hex wrench, a small hex wrench, a few screws. I'm not sure what those are used for. So a few of these countersink screws and a few cap heads. These look like face masks, but they're not. So these are resin filters. You get like 10 or so. Basically, these have a fine mesh included in the, maybe if that's second camera, there we go. These just have a fine mesh at the end so you can pour your, well, I guess your resin too, but resin is a bit too thick for this. So you can really filter your IPA, your washing liquid with these. So, we have some little hardened bits in there and you can filter that out and kind of prolong the life of your resin. So you get, I guess, what is worth more than the rest of a printer. You get 2 face masks. These have an exhaust valve and they are black, which means they have an activated carbon layer in them. They say PM 2.5. Not sure what that is supposed to mean because PM 2.5 is just a particle size. It doesn't say anything about how much of that it's filtering out. But the fact that they are black, the fact that there's activated carbon in there, I think is good because just regular paper masks or filter masks that don't have the activated carbon in there aren't really going to do much for the VOCs from the, oh, this is actually nice and smooth, for the VOCs, for the organic volatile compounds, aka solvents, that may escape from resins. So that is a nice touch. Elegoo actually, was it Elegoo? I think it was Elegoo. Actually shipped me a 20-pack of KN95 face masks. So I guess that's China N95 that I've been using. I guess they're better than paper masks and they were free, so that's good. Lastly, you get a Xoron, not to be confused with moron. You get a Xoron flush cutter thingy. That's slowly coming into focus. These are usually very, very nice to use because they really cut flush. So if you want to take off supports that are stuck to your prints, these will cut them off very cleanly and with very little material lift. And I think that is all we get. So what's on this USB drive is going to be interesting. We also get a manual, which we will try to follow. Yeah, please keep it out of the reach of children. Need to adjust, unbox, and test, so we're going to work through that. Let me catch up on chat real quick. And we're going to watch the SpaceX launch on Saturday. Maybe I missed the last one, but maybe this time it's actually going to go up. The plastic one is for use in the vat. Okay, that's a good point, Mr. Jackson 2K. So the vat which we can actually have a look in here. Sometimes you get some little... That is interesting. Sometimes you get some little bits of resin stuck to the bottom of your vat. Does it actually say that in the manual? There's your build plate, that has a new texture on it. So sometimes you get some bits of failed print stuck to the bottom of your vat. You take that scraper, you scrape that off. I guess that's better than using metal on here because this FEP film is going to scratch very, very easily. Shiny, shiny, shiny. Bad boys 2 came into your mind. Okay. You can use canned air turned upside down to cool the build plate to help pop off prints off the build plate. That is an interesting suggestion. I like nothing too. So basically, prints are usually getting pretty well stuck to the build plate. Actually, we have the old one here as well. On these printers, and that is one of the worst parts about resin printing, I think, because you do have to handle a freshly printed part that's you can already see this has been scratched. I'm just trying to get prints off. So there we go. There's the Mars build plate. That is just it looks like it's a blasted and anodized or powder coated. I don't know. Don't want to touch it. There's still the resin has just been wiped off, not solvented off, I think. So that's the original surface on the. Oh, that's actually let's change the camera's exposure. That's the original texture, and this is the new one. I'm not sure if that's actually going to be better or worse or anything. So this is just a rough, coarse texture, and this is kind of a turn surface, so that they chuck this thing up in a lathe and go like, zip, and you can hear it. Nice. You can hear those ridges in there. So that is, yeah, that's aluminum with nothing on it. It's going to be interesting. Oh, there's already a fingerprint on there. Nice. So it's going to be interesting whether this whether this sticks to prints better, worse, whether it's easier to remove or not. We will see. Here we go. License to drive. Just got the email. Looking, YouTube is lagging on the alerts. It's not too bad. We've only been live for 30 minutes. Decided on a new screwdriver yet? Not yet. I think I'm just going to get another Bosch. What else? How do I feel about the Elegoo Saturn? I think that is a topic that we're going to talk about once we get this thing printing, because it's going to be printing for a while anyways. And we've got plenty of time to talk about that. Some fuzzies in there. All right, but let's get back to getting this thing printing. I kind of want to rush through this because, again, it's going to take long enough to print anyway. So if I don't answer a question, please feel free to answer again once we are in the printing phase and once we have something going on this printer. So I don't have the vat of the regular Mars, but supposedly this guy is using less material. You can see kind of how they're hogged out here. He's using less, interesting. He's using less material, 100 grams, less aluminum, which is great for shipping because shipping generally is by weight. And it also holds more resin. I'm not sure how much more. I guess like a shot glass full of resin more or something. I don't know. But what we can already see, this actually is a black carriage. That is... Oh, that's an interesting carriage. I've not seen those before. So let me get you in here. So this is new. Actually, what I can do is old versus new. So this side is the Mars Pro. You can see there's a linear rail with a carriage that is kind of interesting, because this carriage actually screws in from the from this side, from the bottom into the bed arm. Looks like the bed arm is fairly similar, and then the old one uses rollers that are actually riding up and down this aluminum track. So, I mean, they're both fairly rigid, so there's no noticeable play that I can feel in here. And I'm hoping it's going to be the same for the Pro. Yeah, there's just nothing. Absolutely nothing moving in there. Is that... It looks like they're using a different lead screw nut, but other than that, that is pretty standard fare. So, also you can see the base is a different color. That's interesting. So this is more of a pinkish red, and the new one is more of a, well, I guess it's the same color tone, just more saturated, darker. So they've got a different anodizing process on there. Well, that's not really going to help if that thing is in front. Yeah, you can really see it is darker. Not sure how much of a difference that makes. Yeah, height seems to be identical. And there you have them. So the difference in printing tech that they have between these two printers is the Pro supposedly, well, I guess we can we try that? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you a difference, but the Mars, if I remember correctly, uses just a single cob LED that's like, you know, 2 by 2 centimeters or something, and then a reflector. So it can have a bit more intense light in the center of the build plate, and then towards the edges it kind of tapers off and doesn't cure as quickly or as efficiently anymore. Whereas the Mars Pro uses an array, so it's got a few dozen LEDs. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40. A few dozen LEDs that each have their own lens in front. So this should have a more even exposure over the entire surface. Also, you can see back here, that's where the activated carbon filter is sucking the air in. And because I'm not seeing any vent, I'm not seeing any actual outlet. You stay on there. I'm guessing it's just venting through these holes in the back. So yeah, it doesn't really need a ton of airflow. I know All3DP commented that, yeah, I mean, if you would seal the entire enclosure, you wouldn't get any filtering through it. You wouldn't get any airflow through the filter, but you know, the point is that while this thing is printing, you don't want to have any of the VOCs or any of the smell escaping from it. And a sealed container does just as good of a job at that versus one that is actively being filtered. 28 LEDs. Okay, thanks for looking it up. Rolling. Right, so new bed. That's that. Anything else that you guys wanted to know? How long does each layer take to cure? I think it is a bit faster than the old one. So it's in the couple second range. Can I put that in here without? Oh, it's already touching the plate. So that might have been on the Saturn, or it might have been on this one, but if I remember correctly, it's 30% faster than the old one. Which I didn't feel was slow, so cool. Yeah, one thing I noticed and that I think is kind of nice, this enclosure. I know this is just details. This has a nice rounded edge on the top, and also it doesn't have a seam anywhere on these four sides. So the old one had a seam at the back. This is going to be horrible. Oh yeah, you can see it. The old one, excuse me. The old one had a seam and sharp corners. The new one doesn't. So I don't know. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. So, is it a monochrome LCD? No, it is the same LCD as on the regular Mars. It's the same resolution. It's the same 1440 by 2560, which means it's a 47 micron pixel size. But it is not marketed as a monochrome LCD. I can talk more about that once we get it printing. For now, let's just try and get the work through the manual. Please use 95% ethyl alcohol. Okay, so that is recommended. Is the curing time dependent on the intensity of the UV light from the LEDs in the printer? Yes. You get more light, you get faster cure. So manual, I'm hoping that is somewhat, I'm not sure if you guys are gonna make, if you guys are gonna make out much on this. So yeah, the machine has the USB port up front, and I guess no, does this thing have Wi-Fi? I can't remember. Somebody will know. Since it's an all-metal case, I don't think it does. So 3.5-inch touchscreen, there's the specs for the screen, for the actual LCD that's going to cure the parts or mask the parts. Unbox and test. Okay, that's where I want to be. Take out the printer carefully and take off the plastic film. Okay, we've done that. No, that wasn't Saturn, where it had little feet on the bottom of the vat so you wouldn't sit down the FEP film onto whatever surface you're putting it onto. But since the surface is somewhat clean, no Wi-Fi? Okay, thanks Simone. By the way, hi Simone. Insert the build platform, fasten the rotary knob and loosen the screws. So let's do that. B camera. Oh yeah, with this shiny bed, it's, you know, this camera is really gonna have a hard time trying to find any sort of correct exposure. UVA, UVB, or UVC. This is UVA. So, okay, let's do this in order. So basically you have the build plate that you take out, you fasten it down with this knob right here, the same as on the regular Mars. So now this is fastened in place and you can't pull it off anymore. And then, you know, the build plate is still tightened down. This is tightened down pretty well. And then you undo these, and this thing just drops down and lays flat against the LCD. Connect power cable, okay, but we're not. Put an A4 sheet between. Okay, this manual isn't really in order. Okay. So supposedly you should have, come on. Why are you getting stuck? You're supposed to have an A4 sheet of paper. Oh, because it's stuck on this lip up here. Okay. I've already got it stuck. Okay. Let me see if this A4 sheet of paper has any personal information on it. It does. So let me use the side that does not. Saturn has a special leveling card, yes. A bit of a problem here. So this bed is spring-loaded. As you loosen these screws, this thing pops down and is now spring-loaded. So I guess because there's a lip up here, I can't even take it off. So I'm gonna need to power this thing up and move up the Z-axis. So let's do that right now. Push down on back of build plate to pop over lip. It doesn't move. Rubbery resins, yeah, there are quite a few different resins now that you can use. These printers are all accepting pretty much the same resins because they're all using like 405 nanometer LEDs, which is, I mean, I guess it's technically UV, but it's more like deep blue light. And yeah, most resins, almost all resins cure in that. Sunshine, on the other hand, has both UVA, B, C. There's no UVD. That would be X-rays. Has UVA, B, and C in there. And it also does cure resins, but it can turn the cured, wow, viewing angles, man. It can turn the resin brown and brittle because the UVC will apparently break down the monomers instead of turning them into polymers. Wow, that LCD screen is rough. Especially with the gray on gray. All right, let's see if we can move this up and get this build plate unstuck. Tool, manual, move 1 millimeter up. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is this thing now has supposedly silent drivers. I'm not sure if they're trinamic, but silent drivers nonetheless, and you can barely hear this lead screw or this motor doing anything. So let's use the non-crinkled side. There we go. Okay, push it on, twist it down. So yeah, somebody was asking how did I get my hands on the Pro earlier, or so early. I've had this thing for a while. This thing has just been sitting around in a corner in the studio. And I didn't want to unbox it so far because it just wasn't available. It was a printer that was vaporware for the most part. There were apparently a handful of units shipped out, but every time I checked, it was like, oh, sorry, this thing is out of stock. It's going to be available soon. So, I don't know. Thankfully now it is looking like, yeah, it will be available in roughly a month or so. This one is roughly in position, so number one we tighten first. So what's basically happened now is there's a spring in here, and this has pushed the build plate against the sheet of paper, meaning it is now level and square. Well, I guess it's not level technically, but it's square against the screen. And yeah, that has auto leveled itself basically. Okay, that's the leveling done. So we can move this back up. And there we go, there is our perfectly leveled build surface. Now, this procedure is basically the same for almost any printer now. The difference is how well this clamping mechanism up here works. And on the Mars, I think it's the same. No, it is not. So on the regular Mars, those are grub screws. You can see the other head there. So it's the same, kind of the same head this way, but it is grub screws, which are, I guess, a bit harder to turn. They use a smaller size hex key. Doesn't make much of a difference, but yeah, these give a bit of a better feel. Did I press home? Yes, I did home. It was all the way at the bottom. So now we can home again, and it's just going to hover 1/10 of a millimeter. You can just barely see a gap at the edge there. There, maybe not. There you go. You can just barely see a bit of a gap there, yeah, and you can see as I push it down, it just barely moves. So this is nicely leveled. What did I miss in chat? Oh, I'm on top chat. Why am I on top chat? Probably because regular chat is way more chaotic. Can it run Crysis? Can it run Doom? I'm pretty sure this thing can run Doom. I mean, it's a screen, it's a processor. Anything that has that can run Doom at this point, right? That is Doom, the original Doom. Not New Doom. Cool. So yes, next up we're supposed to test the UV LED. Oh, now we get to move it 10 millimeters. So UV LED and LCD screen. Press 10 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. God, counting is hard in the live stream. Is the build plate crooked? Nah, maybe the camera is crooked. So if I put my mic's right here, if I put that next to it, you can hear a bit of a hum, maybe. and you can hear the fan, but you cannot hear the motor. It does move pretty slowly though, so doesn't need to for a resin printer, but could be faster. What is the #1 beginner 3D printer you would recommend? Watch my 3D Printing for Beginners series to find out. First 2 episodes will start on June 6th, I think. June 6th? No, June 5th, next week. No, wait. Next week? Yeah, next week. Shit, I gotta produce those. Where I explain everything about what I think is a good beginner 3D printer. Haha. Test the LCD screen. Tool exposure next. So let's try that. Shiny. We do an exposure, we do next. Start exposure, so that's the preview, I guess. And yeah, oh, you can actually see, you can see the array. You guys seen that? There's like little individual areas on this screen. Camera isn't picking up the UV light all too well. Maybe on this one? Yeah, you can see, oh yeah, definitely. You can see how it's an array instead of just one big reflector. So that should help with consistent exposure. Cool. Nice. So that is that tested. I guess we can turn this off again now. There we go. Model printing. Put the silicone rubber seal on the cover. Should I do that? I don't think that's actually going to do anything. Plug the USB to your printer. Wear your mask and then add resin slowly to 1/3 of the level of the tank. It doesn't say if we should do that inside or outside. I guess inside. Yeah, so at this point we should have the vat installed. There we go. Do a clean tank and you will see everything. Clean tank, wow, so that creates, oh, that's already heating up. So clean tank basically gives you a complete exposure. That would be interesting. So this one, that's interesting. This one actually snaps into place. How do they do that? Oh, it's this lip. Okay, it's that lip that we got we failed to get the build plate over or off of. So that's nice. I don't think the old one does that, but I never noticed it. Interesting. How is this compared to the Saturn? Again, we will go into those details later on, but basically it's very similar, it's just smaller. This is a 5.5-inch screen. The Saturn is an 8.9-inch. Wash your print and clean the tank. We've not even... Are you seeing this? So instructions basically go from... Okay, install the lid. There you go. You can now load your print. Oh, okay, I'm reading too fast. Select the model rook.cbdbdlp and then wash it, okay. But I actually want to slice something myself because, you know, everyone can print samples and call that a day. I do want an actual self-sliced print. Yeah, I forgot the grommet on the lid. Again, I don't think it's going to do much because supposedly it doesn't even sit right. It doesn't even seal properly. This isn't silicone, this is rubber. Anyways, let's put it on because the manual says so. They seem to skip the carbon filter on the Saturn. Yeah, maybe there will be a Saturn Pro in the future. That's a good point. Nismo, you can turn anything into a Pro. There we go. That's an interesting smell to it. Good day from Ottawa. Good day back to Ottawa. Would dust or other dirt between the screen and the film impact the quality in some areas? Yes, it would, which is why I kind of, at least tried to get it all out. Well, this looks like it would seal, or at least looks like it sits flush-ish. So let's try and see if it does actually seal. And it's not like it's... You see, this lip right here, this is, I guess it's supposed to... Yeah, you can see on the classic Mars, you can see how that lip actually allows the cover to sit all the way over down to the aluminum. Yeah, this side, down onto the aluminium, but also on the Pro, you can't push it over because now there's extra material in there, so you can't really. You can try to, but this is always just going to sit on top. So I don't think this is going to make for. Again, I don't think the seal actually does anything, but we'll keep it on because they said so, right? Okay, this is supposed to have an air filter on the Pro. Yeah, but like if it's supposed to suck air through that filter, if you seal the entirety of the chamber, like there's no air going to be flowing through that filter. So, yeah. Cool. Wear your mask and then slowly add resin. Okay, let's try one of these gloves and see if it's actually. It's a good size. It's like a glove size 9, I would say. 8 or 9 or something. So, yep. Generic size. Do I want to fill it in the printer? I'm actually going to take it out because, yeah. There you go. Don't want to. Do we not get resin? You don't get resin. Yeah, we got like a little. Did we get a 500 gram or a 250 or something? We got some resin with the Mars, I think. Always Prusa print in the background. Yeah, because I used those. I kept print on those. Let me grab the resin box. So we got green, we got translucent, and we got black. So I think I'll actually go for the green, maybe because translucent is going to be horrible to show off on camera. Black, just a bit boring. Let's go for green. No resin with the regular Mars either. Okay. You didn't home the bed. I did home the bed. You could mix them. Yeah, that's something that I hear is possible. Why not virtual reality? Well, fine. I'll put up a Ender 3 as well. I don't really use that thing, but there you go. There's an Ender 3. You happy now? Army Man green. So I'm hoping this is the actual green that's going to come out. UV wavelength 405 nanometers. So they're recommending 60 seconds for the first layer and 8 seconds for the regular layers. Hey, you guys want to put up more printers? How about we throw up an ANET as well? There you go. There's an E10. Now let's grab a load spot. Why not? Let's have all the printers. There we go. More printers. That better? Is resin still so expensive? Resin has actually come down quite a lot. So you can get the Elegoo resins. People always tell me not to shake it, but I'm going to shake it anyways. You can get the Elegoo resin in the 1 kilogram bottles for $35 now, or $36 or something. So I think that is quite good. It is still way more expensive than filament, where you can get good filament for like $20, $25 a kilogram. But yeah, it used to be more expensive, but it still is more expensive. There you go. Than than filament. Let's see what color we get. Yeah, this is a nice slimy green. I think that should be enough for now. It's actually a translucent green, so you can still see the paper towel underneath very, very clearly. How does it smell? Smells like resin, doesn't smell all too strong, but typically it does start to smell more once you start printing. Just the polymerization process seems to release some of the smelly stuff from your resin. Okay, actually, while we're at it, I actually do like this this bottle design from Elegoo, and I think Prusa uses the same one, where it's a where it has this sort of drip catch, where a lot of the resin gets caught in the thread, and then it has this catch on the bottom as well. So I've never had these leak and kind of get the entire bottle sticky. So yeah, this design I think is working pretty well. How does it taste? I feel like that is a trick question, so I'm not going to try to answer that. Not going to taste it for you, and you shouldn't, if that isn't perfectly clear. There you go. Can it dry in regular light? Depends on what your regular light is. So because I'm using all LED lights in the studio here, is that correct? Yeah, I'm using all LED lights in the studio here. Those don't release UV light at all. So their highest energy wavelength is blue, which is a bit over or a bit less energetic than what this stuff needs to cure. But I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't get off here. I wouldn't guarantee that it doesn't cure in regular LED light. If you put it under fluorescent light or sunlight, it will definitely start to cure. Less under fluorescent, and under sunlight, it will instantly start to cure. So yeah, going bare here. No rubber on this one. So okay, let's move over to the. There's no spare resin, no loose resin. Okay. Let's move over to what's on the USB drive. No, that button, wrong button. Okay, I do have a. By the way, I do have a completely separate system for. There we go. Got a separate laptop that handles all the stuff that I show you on screen. So that's what you see here. And then this guy, there you go. That's running OBS Studio. So no matter what happens to this computer, my streaming computer is still gonna be working. All right. Shut up. You love cookies, I don't. So what do we get? We get slicing software. So Windows 64, shit the box, 1.6.1. Is there a pro version of that yet? Because I saw them announce that, hey, we now have a Pro, or we are going to plan a Pro version that's actually going to cost something, whereas the free version might not get all features in the future. Price $299. At least that's what you can pre-order for. Ah, damn it! What is that? That's like Visual Studio runtime or something. 140 Visual Studio, this thing. Redistributable. Do we need the? I thought Windows 10 installs those automatically, the runtimes. We need the 64 in both. Let's just go for that. 163 is out. Yes, gimme install, yes. Isn't that fun to watch? That needs to be part of the installer. Actually, I don't think the Visual Studio C++ redistributables are supposed to be part of the installer. It's kind of like, I guess it's a try at making it more like Linux, where you install some software and it automatically pulls in the dependencies. So you only need to install Visual Studio redistributable once, and all the programs can use it that require it. Check for updates. Oh, 164 is out. Somebody just said 163 is out. So let me just try that. Let me see if beta download. Okay, I guess we're going for Win64. Yeah. What? Come on. Fix the bug that Windows 7 thumbnail program may cause Explorer to crash. Fantastic. Do I? No, I just want to download the software. Okay, so the slicer is actually pushing me over to the beta version. And if you go over here, you can download the regular version, and I'm hoping, nope. Nope, you also need an account. Okay. So let's go for the beta version. Please enter shit2box@toms3d.org. Password. Oh. That? Maybe? Password incorrect. Oh no, I need to sign up. I need to sign up. Okay. So is it worth running through the procedure? I guess I'm enterprise. Choose my, well, this is optional, right? Something went wrong. Please refresh. Something's wrong. Can I do that? Nope. Can't download the update, so yeah. All right, we're going to be using shit2box 1.6.1 because we can't create an account to download the update. Let me see if there are specific instructions for how to set this thing up. So, how to use it. Click File, Open File, then download or open your own 3D model. Or download some samples. So actually, I'm going to turn you off for now. That's better. do that. Long press the left click and drag Shitterbox settings, parameter settings, and choose Elegoo Mars Pro. Okay. Where are we at with parameter settings? It's been a while since I used Shitterbox. There we go. So can we, no, new one. So Elegoo Mars Pro. I've already got the profile for the Saturn in there. Longer, Frozen, Shuffle, Kitty, Shadow, Spark Maker, Wanhao. A printer that's called Spark Maker, I don't think I would trust that for fire safety. Okay, Mars Pro, mirror. We got LCD, resin, print, exposure time. It's interesting that this is set to 6 seconds, even though the resin is recommending 8 seconds on the bottle. Of course, the exposure time does depend on which printer you have. So when it says 8 seconds on the bottle, if you have a stronger UV light source, which I believe the Mars Pro does have, it does expose faster. So yeah, I'm just, this is Photoshop, guys. This is, yeah, kind of weird. So they've got the screenshot there, and then they've photoshopped in the 6 seconds and 45 seconds. I guess that's the same screenshot from the Mars, where it should be saying 8 seconds and 60 seconds then. But it looks like that is the settings that we want. Can we change anti-aliasing is on? Oh, we can set infill, that's nice. Grid 3D. I guess. Do we need to save this? Looks good. That's it. Yes, that's saved. Okay, Elegoo Mars Pro. But we can jump back in and say layer height, right? Layer height 0.05. They recommend from 0.01 to 0.2. So because I don't want to wait that long for my print for now, I'm going to actually set it to 0.1. Bottom layer count 3 to 6 layers. That's within spec. Exposure time 6 to 15 seconds according to layer height. So let's bump that up to 8 then. And then bottom exposure time 30 to 80 seconds. Light off delay, bottom light off delay. Don't need to change those. So those are at 0. So I'm guessing at this point we can model doesn't stick, model layer can't work. There's a warranty. 3-month warranty for the screen and a full 1-year warranty on the printer. All right. Resin, look at that. Yeah, let's get something sliced. Oh yeah, good question. Joar. Yes, they did put the USB port up front. That is a big improvement. Fox below, yes, at 0.1 millimeters. I just want to get this thing done a bit faster. So how do I rotate? Do I really need a mouse for this? Anyways, while we figure this out, let's grab, I guess this is what we're gonna print, right? I have to see, maybe I'll scale it down. So model by Signy. I'm gonna grab the full model right there. I'm not sure how well it's gonna look in just neon green. In translucent neon green. Can I drag and drop this in? Yes, I can. And yeah, this is too big. So we get a nice base that should make it stick pretty well. So first we can do scale to fit, but that is still going to. So yeah, this thing at full scale or at maximum scale, you can see we could print a good bit taller. Middle mouse button. Tell me more about that middle mouse button. That mouse is hooked up to the streaming computer. Tell me more about the middle mouse button on this thing. I mean, 3 fingers, maybe. So we get an estimate of actually just, wow, that's actually pretty good. For 0.1 millimeter layers with an 8-second exposure, we get 3.5 hours of print time. That's not too bad, but that would be midnight here. So I'm gonna scale this thing down quite a bit more. Print time is basically proportional. So if we go from 100% to 30%, oh yeah, we can zoom. We can zoom with just scrolling, and we can move the view, but yeah, rotating isn't something. Yeah, we are going through the how to rotate stuff every single unboxing because it is an issue with almost every slicer. Like, this thing doesn't even have mouse buttons. That's how touchpads just look on almost every computer now. There are no physical buttons anymore. Like, some of them have the tab zones, but those don't really work. So you either do 2 fingers for a right click, or you do one finger for the single click. But there's no, like, 3 finger doesn't do anything. So anyways, we've got an hour. We've got 2 grams of resin, 1.8 milliliters. Cost of 6 cents. I don't know what that resin cost is. And then we get a preview. No, if you can grab it here, we get a preview of what the exposed layers are actually. Oh, look how ripped he is. Look at that back. Look at that back muscle. Yeah, and I wonder if that tail is going to come out. So should we enable supports? That is the question. I'm gonna leave that up to you. You can set the price of the resin. Yes. Do we need to use supports for this model? Actually, if you open it up in, I guess that's gonna open up in Windows Print 3D. Yes. You need them for the triceps. I'm gonna need them for those abs. Look at that. Oh. By the way, do you see how easy that is? Like, you just take 1 finger, you click it, look at that, it rotates. That's how it's supposed to be. Microsoft knows. Oh yeah, we do need support right there. For sure, and the tail also, yeah, the tail has a negative overhang angle, so that definitely needs some supports. So sheet to box auto supports are actually quite good if I can find them. That's hollow, that's 6 ports. Where was this? Layout, hollow. There we go. Oh yeah, it has the supports tab. So we do not need raft. Oh god, it's been a while. No, that's the shape where LZ lift height. There it is. So we don't need to lift this up. And this, regular support setting should actually work pretty well. Let's see. There we go. And that, oh yeah, that's, I can't rotate. So it looks like the tips are actually a bit large for this model, but we're just gonna try. We're just gonna try as is. Can we actually go? You can select the model, the printer model there. I thought you could just directly export. So yeah, I guess that should work. Let's save this onto our USB drive. _swole Pikachu. It's not a big model, that is correct. I don't want to be stuck here all day or all night. It is 8 p.m. Write successful. Let me eject that real quick. So I'm not sure if the, actually let's have a look real quick. And this one doesn't use the new, oh yeah, it does. It uses the CTB format, which supposedly is a compressed version. or a more compressed format compared to the CLBD-BDDB that the regular Mars uses. So I'm guessing it saves time transferring it onto USB drives, it saves space on your drives, just a more compressed format. If somebody knows, arrow keys, good point, we will try in a second. If somebody knows if that means that, well, I guess it can still read CLBDDB files. The question is, does that make it incompatible with other slicers? So would I be able to configure another slicer to produce files compatible with this machine? I think that's not an issue. I think that's still possible. Big spender tip. I'll get to that in a second. Let's just get this print going, and then we can catch up on chat and tips and all that, because we're gonna have plenty of time. Okay, now we're in deflection. So print. Actually, no. Let's do, because we still have a few bubbles that I can see in the resin. I am first going to home this thing. Arrow keys? No, arrow keys don't really do anything. Nope, WASD? Nope. Shift and arrow keys? Nope. Shift and, nope. Numpad probably. Yeah. Upper right corner with the TLF. Doesn't work on touch. What is, okay, there's at least a few, we'll get to that in a second. So, what I've seen on the, oh, it's down there on the floor. What I've seen on the Prusa SL1 is that before I print it would actually slam or home the bed into the bottom of the vat a few times, just to push out bubbles. And I'm not sure if we can make that out. That is going to be, I think we just saw something pop there, but yeah, that's green resin under a red hood. We're not going to see anything there. And that just pushes out any bubbles that might still be in there. So just pulling it up and pushing it back down, any bubbles are going to rise to the side. And yeah, I guess the important thing is that there is nothing, no bigger bubbles stuck to the bottom of the bed. Okay. Alt F4, I will try that one in a second. Okay, so there we go. Let's get printing. Print, and there is our preview of the Pikachu. You can kind of make out what it is, right? You get a bigger preview picture there. Let's go play. Let's go expose that. Okay, and it is actually live reading off of the USB drive, so it's not buffering it onto the print itself, which is good because it means there's no size limit for how large of a file you can print. It's just streaming it off of the drive. But also there's only a limited amount of layers that a printer like this will ever have to reproduce. Like if you print at 0.01 for the entire height, like that's a fixed file size that you can have. All right, so machine is printing. I'm gonna real quick reset up this camera to give you guys a bit of a better view. Where are you gonna see something? I guess right there. To give you a better view, because right now you're not really, there's no way for me to look into, does that tripod go up far enough? Maybe. To look into the vat and to see what's going on there. There you go, and maybe get this tripod a bit on its hind legs as well. There we go. It's green resin under a red hood, so it's basically, yeah, it's basically all black in there. But maybe let's zoom out a bit, and there we go. There's the screen. I guess, sorry if that was loud. I guess we can see what's going on. Now, as far as resin smell goes, I mean, you can smell that it's that there's resin going on. I guess if we move forward a bit more, you can smell that there's resin printing, and you do kind of lose. Maybe if I put something black here, you can see the screen a bit better. You do lose the sense for how strongly it smells if you. Oh yeah. Totally not sponsored by Prusa. There we go. You do kind of lose the sense of smell for, you know, whether or not a room smells of resin or not. Whew. Okay. Does moving it around affect the print at all? I mean, it shouldn't. It really shouldn't, because it's, first of all, it's one of the first layers, so on those it's overexposing anyways. But also the ZX is fairly sturdy. Like, it's an aluminum profile that's tied into the base here, and it's a linear rail, so there's not going to be much wobble in this. And I tried. You know, there's no backlash or anything. Cool. Let's move. I guess we're at that point where the machine is printing, and we can have a look at chat and see what you guys are up to. But first, there was a 100 € donation from Shamsha. That name is familiar, so thank you again. I guess you're enjoying the live streams. I mean, that's great, but thank you. Not gonna overpay this time. I mean, you're still overpaying. Why would you tip $100? Tesla tip $3. Dolly should have a permanent spot in the background, maybe under the on-air sign. Yeah, I guess. I don't think I'm ever going to take Dolly apart. But yeah, I think that would be nice, just to have her. Yeah, I guess it's her. Just to have the machine right there underneath the on-air sign. I guess that would be nice. It's just a bit. It's not the prettiest printer, let's put it like that. How loud is the ZX's stepper? Inferno 10 was asking. You probably didn't hear that, but it's like, you can just barely hear that it's moving. Especially on the faster moves, you get a bit of that hum. But maybe if I move in real close. So it should do a ZX's move in a second. And the mic is like right there. Not sure if you guys were able to hear that, but it is not loud at all. You can hear that it's a stepper. The fan that's in the bottom unit here is a lot louder than the motor itself. This is roughly 50 watts, or was that the Saturn? 30 watts, somewhere in the dual digit watt range for the UV LEDs, so it will need some cooling. This is emitting more heat than a laptop CPU running at full blast. So if you know how loud a laptop is, then you know this is the same amount of energy, the same amount of cooling that it needs to dissipate. What sort of calibration do you do for each of your MSLA printers? Not much. Like, I use the profiles that are provided, and usually those work out pretty well. I mean, I only have 3 resin printers. I've got the. Let me know if I should switch back to the A camera where you guys can see me. But I think I'm still in the corner, so you guys see enough, right? So. God, this lid is heavy. So I've had the, I guess for now let's just show this. I've had the Wanhao duplicator, which is not a great machine. Like, this thing is so wobbly and everything. The height adjustment is a pain. Like, this wasn't a printer that I used very much. It is still, I mean, if you look, even like the detail on the side here where the two halves meet, this looks almost identical. It has that same shape to it, so I'm not sure if that's inspiration or if it's actually the same guys designing these machines? Not sure. But yeah, this printer has not been a lot of fun because it didn't print very well because it's so wobbly and so shoddily built. There was the need to plug in through HDMI. You can see it in the back here. There we go. There's the HDMI port. So this thing worked as a secondary screen. And I mean, I talked about this on the last stream slightly, or briefly. If you had a mouse cursor on that screen from the printer, it would print the mouse cursor. So that wasn't very great. And then I've got the Prusa SL1. So Prusa slice profiles for that work very well. And the same for the Elegoo Mars for the stock one, for the non-pro version. This thing also works pretty darn well with the stock print settings as far as like layer times and all that goes. The only tuning I really did on that was to play with the support settings. And that's really all my resin printers completed. Cool. Killis has become a member on YouTube. Thank you for that, and welcome to the. Do you have a name for the for YouTube members? Layer crew. Welcome. Let's leave it at that. Cool. Bain Williams said I would comment on the Mars Pro versus Saturn once I started printing. Yes, so let's talk about the Mars Pro. So this obviously is the Mars Pro and the Saturn. And obviously there are machines that are made by the same company, but also kind of have similar features. But there are a few that, I mean, I'm smelling some resin now, by the way. There are a few that the Saturn has that there we go, launch on 6.6. That Saturn has that the Mars Pro does not have. Particularly, the Saturn is a pre-order crowdfunding pre-order because I mean they're using the Kickstarter terms here with early birds and first pre-order and all that. They have limited production, I guess, and they are kind of having a startup sale. Let's call it that. So if you get early bird, where there are 200 in stock right now, it's $300, and if you do the first pre-order, it's $400 plus shipping. So supposedly shipping to Germany is another $150 on top of that. So I guess the plus imports and tax and all that. So this is like a 600 euro printer, effectively. So that you have to factor in. It's twice as much effectively as the Mars Pro. It's also twice the size when it comes to how large of a part they can print. So they cover input and tax. You can buy it from the 6th of June. Okay, so they do. Okay, that's a good point, Simone. Because typically when you buy stuff that is shipped from China or from anywhere outside the EU, or for US folks, anywhere outside the United States, yeah. You do have to pay at least value-added tax, which here is 19%, plus whatever fees the imports guys calculate shipping. Whatever fees the imports guys charge you. So shipping, that didn't work. Let me put in my postcode here real quick. So yeah, $150 shipping. There we go. Shipping fee, $150 to my address. So obviously that is not covered by Elegoo, but typically the 19% tax you would have to pay on top of that. But thanks for the hint, Simone. Apparently that is covered by Elegoo in this case. How much they will cost when you have importers and resellers in Germany, Europe, the US, who for you do all the imports and stuff and just sell it to you like a regular store. That is still open. But again, it is a large printer. It is something that can be very useful because these smaller printers are, well, they're small. It's a 5.5 inch LCD, if I remember correctly, right? 5.5 inch. So this one has a printing size of, there we are, build volume, 12 by 6.8 centimeters. So 12 wide, 6.8 deep, and 15.5 centimeters high. So there's 4.72 inches by 2.68 by 6.1. You can look up the specs on any website. And the, where are we at? This guy is printing size 192 by 120 by 200. So that's basically like 4 times as much, if my 3 times as much, if my quick math is correct, and that does make a huge difference. That is almost as large as your regular FDM printer. Like these guys, this is a 150 by 150 bed, that's a 200 by 200, so it does go into the territory of what's typically just left for FDM machines, but of course you will be using more resin, which is kind of expensive. Yeah, they offered to send me one. I was like, guys, usually I do like stuff that's out regularly that people can buy on regular shops, and the Saturn is kind of pre-ordery right now. So I'm not sure when I'll be getting one, but yeah, that's the Saturn. Yeah, and I guess the big feature it has is the 4K Monochrome Lcd. So typically, I guess if we LCD pixel, subpixel. Typically what an LCD screen looks like, there we go. So you have, come on, you have a, why can I not zoom in here? Anyways, you have a pixel on the left here, so this is one dot that you see on the screen. And then each of those is made up of a red, green, and blue area. And for there's a color filter on there. Those are electrically identical, if I remember correctly. And then there's a color filter with red, green, and blue. And for UV LED, I would think that only goes through the blue area. Yeah, it should. So out of that whole area, you're really only using that blue area, and everything that's red and green here is just always blocked off, and then the blue area you can control. Which of course means you're wasting, an LCD always wastes half of your light because it's polarizing anyways. And then you have 2/3 on top of that that is just being absorbed in the LCD, which means the LCD heats up, which means the LCD heats up more and you get less usable light. So what the monochrome LCD, I assume, does is it takes those 3 pixels and it removes the color filter. So I don't think they've got a custom spun panel in there, but it's just that they don't have the color filter in there. So basically you get 3 times the amount of light that is usable, that shines through 3 times? Yeah, 3 times as much light that shines through the LCD, and that exposes the parts. So you get wasting 4/3. That doesn't check out. Yeah, you are getting a lot more light that actually goes into your print versus being absorbed in the LCD, which means you can print faster and your LCD screen should last longer because it doesn't heat up as much. So yeah, I do have a custom spun panel. Yeah, Bane, I think the custom part really is just the no color filter in there. I don't think they've actually got a custom LCD layer. It's just how the actually let me demonstrate here. LCD layers. Nope, there. Samsung display PID. So basically out of all of these layers that a screen is made up of, and you can see the light kind of passing through, the only layer they're leaving out is this color layer. So if you don't put that in, you basically you still have a very high resolution screen. Essentially you get 3 times the pixels, right? But you don't filter the light when it comes to taking out all of the components out of light that aren't blue, red, or green. So yeah, it can still be a custom panel, but the actual LCD part, the actual liquid crystalline here, that stays the same. It's just they're taking out the color filter. So yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. And that's the big feature, or one of the big features of the Elegoo Saturn. What do they claim for resolution? Because I would think that the resolution actually triples if you take out that color filter. So yeah, resolution is 3840 by 2400. So that's like 16 by 10 4K screen. So slightly taller 4K, which is good. It's a good resolution. It's not as high as the 1440p or pixel density as the 1440p panel in this thing, but it's still a very, very high resolution. All right. Why does it resin lower out of the liquid? Good question, John. So what this printer is actually doing is, first it started out with the print bed, all the way down on the, maybe I can show it here. First it started out all the way down on the LCD, and the LCD actually exposes from the bottom. So on the bottom of this build plate, you start out after the first layer with just a tiny, tiny film of your cured part. So why it raises up is because if you have that transparent FEP film that we showed on the vat bottom first, it actually rips your part off of that film, and it needs to move up a bit further than just the layer height. So it actually rips off your part from that film, so it's now just stuck to the underside of your bed, and then it moves back down 0.1 millimeters less than it moved up. So it leaves a bit of a space between your now partial print stuck to the base and where your new layer is going to cure from. So that up and down movement is just, it rips it off and then moves down slightly less than it moved up and leaves space for a new layer. And it doesn't actually have to move all the way out of the resin. If it did that, especially on those first layers, it would introduce air into your printing area, and you don't want that. So it's for the first few bits, it is keeping the print base mostly submerged just to not draw in any extra air. On my second print, the plate fell onto the display, cracking the display and the bottom of the vat. Plasterfuchs, is that for the Mars Pro? Because that sounds rough. I've had that happen on I had that happen on the regular Mars. I've had that happen on this guy, which is why there is now a long M3 screw. That's actually the retention screw. So if you undo the screws that we undid earlier to level this bed, there's a spring in here, like I said, and this screw wasn't in place on the Mars Pro. So this thing also shot down onto the LCD. Thankfully, in my case, with the regular Mars, nothing broke. So that was just a quality control issue that could have wrecked the LCD screen. There was a question, by Scott. Can the resin be left in the tank? Most manufacturers say you shouldn't leave the resin in the tank, and it does make sense to not leave resin in a printer sitting like that, because what might happen is you pick up the printer thinking like, oh yeah, there's nothing in there. Like right now, this just looks black to me. You grab it, you tilt it, and all of a sudden you've got your entire printer base filled with resin, or you've dumped it all over you. That has happened before, so it is good practice to not keep a filled vat in the printer. But there's nothing in the air that would really cure resin, and I've had resin sit in machines for months, and nothing happened. So while I can't guarantee that it's going to be fine, my experience shows that there really isn't anything to worry about leaving resin in a printer like this, especially when it's just a few days or a few weeks at a time. Is there any info about temperatures and resin printers iteration? Omega was asking. Can you use it in high or low temperatures? And there's been a good answer from Christopher Gagne. 20C is about the lowest you want to ever try to print at. Yes, that's true, and also you don't really want to print in very high temperatures, not just because the resin is going to change its properties, but also because the electronics and the LCD screen and the UV LED are going to suffer because their temperature rises as well. So yeah, just room temperature is fine. I guess 15 degrees should still be okay. You might need to slightly change your printing settings with layer times and all that, but yeah, regular room temperature should be fine. What are we printing? Let me show again. I've already closed it off. We are printing the Ultra Swole Pikachu at, I think, 30% scale by Cyanye. Non-commercial share alike. I'm not sure if this is non-commercial what I'm doing, but yeah, that's what we're printing. Not sure if I'm going to paint it, but I just thought this was a fun model, so yeah, why not do it? So let me see if we can actually find a way to rotate stuff in Sheet 2 Box. So left clicking doesn't really do anything. Left clicking just moves. Right clicking and dragging doesn't do anything either. I don't think the touchpad even supports that. Oh, something happened. Wow, okay, scrolling zooms. And then there's this thing up top here where you can apparently click on, and you can see the axis rotating at the bottom there, home. There's our home position. Okay, so we cannot click and drag on that, but we can at least get a few ISO views. So we can get it's not ISO because it's perspective. We can get a top view, a left front. Okay, to me like the long side would be, but apparently this is front. Interesting. So we can get a few different views, but that's about it. What is the MSRP? I'm not sure if there is an MSRP, but you can currently pre-order it for $2.99 from 3D Jake. That's like the only store that I found it available at. Is it hollow? Oh, yeah, nah. This is not hollow. I could have hollowed it out. But it's still, how much resin are we using? I think we're using like 2 grams, so it doesn't really matter. And at those small sizes, 2.5 grams, we're at 7 cents. I exported this with 6 cents. That's interesting. I think I must have moved it or something. So 2 or 2.5 grams of resin. That's really not too bad. That's not worth hollowing it out and you know, doing weird stuff on its very first print. Alt-click, shift-click. I think I tried that, but it really... Alt-click, still move, shift, control-click doesn't do anything. No, those don't do anything either. Does resin go bad in an open bottle? So Salvaris, it's really not about an opened bottle, because the oxygen in the air doesn't really do anything for curing a resin. It's a chemical reaction, really. But oxygen. Usually oxygen actually should help. Some resins don't harden if there's oxygen present. But yeah, resin has a shelf life. Because basically there's everything in this bottle that cures the resin. It's just being activated by that UV light. It says shelf life 365 days. They could have said a year, but it's 365 days for this bottle, and that's typically what resins are rated for as well. This one has been produced March 2nd. So it expires March 3rd, 2021. I guess leap years and stuff, but okay, that's interesting. But yeah, resins do go bad over time. They do start to just get less, what's the word? less liquid, less viscous. So they don't flow that well. They don't flow that well under the areas where the build plate has lifted off. They just go bad. It's the same with epoxy resins and resins you would use for carbon fibers, infusion resins, those sort of things. They just go bad after a while. Right click, move mouse. Nope. Try the 4 buttons on left. Seems to be a cube with a spinny arrow. Okay, we're still trying to figure out how to rotate this. So these are actually just moving the model, so rotating the model. I guess we can rotate them. We can rotate, if you grab this one, we can rotate the entire model. I mean, technically, yeah, that is what we're trying to do. It's just it's just, we're rotating it on the build plate. We're not moving the camera. I guess that works. I guess that's better than nothing. Eye at the top right doesn't. The eye is just view modes. Is it? Oh no. Okay. So the eye is perspective versus. Is it ISO? Non-perspective. So, yeah, perspective on off. Right click and drag. Yeah, this touchpad doesn't do it. All right, thanks Simone for being here. Orthographic, yeah. Thanks Simone for being here. Catch you later. Where were we at? More viscous? Yes, okay. You're right. You're right. What brand of resin do I use? I guess I showed this. So this is the Elegoo standard photopolymer resin. This is just resin. Oh no, this is blurry. Okay, this is resin that Elegoo supplied. Standard. This is standard. Is this standard as well? This is a different box. Standard photopolymer. Yeah, that's standard as well. I've used their standard stuff. I've used the tough. I've used the Prusa resins. The only resin that's not been great was the Wanhao resin that was included with the duplicator. But other than that, all the resins were actually pretty great. So I'm pretty confident if you get what's the hype resin? The Siraya Tech. If you grab that, that's going to print just fine. Again, those are. I've not had bad experiences with resins, other than that one from Wanhao. But that was I think that was like an early generation or something. What is my opinion on Creality and Kickstarter? Oh yeah, we're getting into the deep end here, Brandon. So if you have seen it, Creality actually has a. Oh no, I'm just realizing I do need to wash these. I should wash this pot, and I don't have any IPA here. Ah, crap. I do have some ethanol though. Do I? Oh, and some acetone. No, that's not going to be great. So Creality have launched a Kickstarter for their CR6 Ender something, like a compact printer, right? Ender 3 Pro or whatever it is. They're all pretty similar machines. I'm going to go look for some ethanol real quick. They've launched a Kickstarter, and they are now a crowd-funded company, I guess. I'm hoping this audio isn't breaking up. While it's not strictly against Kickstarter's terms or anything, I think it is against the spirit of Kickstarter, because Creality are not a company that need crowdfunding to get a product off the ground. They don't require the funding of the crowd to start a business or something. They are already a successful business, both when it comes to like the business side of things and when it comes to making decent printers. So they figured both of those things out. And Kickstarter, at least the way that I've always seen it, is intended more as a here's a startup. that has a great idea and that needs funding to actually get that idea off the ground. I don't know. Like, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just doing something that feels wrong. You know? It's like, what are you going to do about it? It's not... Kickstarter are very happy about it, obviously, because... Kickstarter is happy about it, obviously, because they take a cut of the pledges, so they will happily make. Oh, I've got the CW1. They will happily take a cut of the pledges, but you know, it's a marketing measure, like reality. I mean, that's what it is, right? We are talking about their machine right now. Job successful. So, I mean, can't blame them. They're business. They're doing business things. So, I don't know. It's marketing. Marketing is weird sometimes. We're going to be doing a printer mystery solving session anytime soon. John, I don't think so. So I'm all in for producing and preparing videos for the basic series next month. That's actually going to be 10 videos in a month. So 2 per week if everything pans out. That's going to be a mad rush to do. So yeah, I'm going to be doing this live stream today and then another live stream on the Prusa Mini tomorrow if DHL Express actually makes it on time. And it's just going to be videos from here on out. So regular beginner videos, how to get into 3D printing. Why did it go to 7%? Yeah, 52. It's just the yeah, the color changing. All right, so yeah, I mean, resin printers aren't that fun to watch because it's you don't see anything, right? Somebody was asking about printing an adapter piece for a motorcycle fender. Depends on how that's designed. So hey Joel, good to have you around. Depends on how that part is designed, how bulky it is and all that. But yeah, resin prints can actually be incredibly strong if you use the right resin. I've done a video on that with the Elegoo Tough resin, where it actually outperformed the strength and, well, not just the strength, but the toughness as well of a filament print. So yeah, I did not find any ethanol around here. I didn't find any IPA. I should have brought those from the old studio, but I do have a Prusa CW1, and I'm thinking I should be able to at least wash the part in here and then cure it. That should work. Inserts in resin prints, I don't think you can actually melt them in because the resin is a thermoset, if that's a English equivalent term. So you can't melt it if you apply heat to it once it's printed. Have I tried the Markforged printer? Yes, there are actually a couple of videos on my channel about it. So yeah, I did not find any IPA or ethanol, but this container is still full. So that is a full, oh yeah, oh, look at that sludge at the bottom. That is a full, that is a full container of IPA. So, I guess it's time to put on one of those activated carbon masks. So I use the fryer basket that Prusa are including with the SL1, not with the SL1, with the CW1, and I drop my part in here, and then wash it in there, and then we can cure it in the CW1 as well. That's what that's what these filters are actually great for. So you pour your sludgy IPA through one of those filters, and it should filter out a good portion of it. Could you model in holes for inserts and add them before curing, then cure with the inserts in? Good point. You could probably do that, and yeah, because semi-cured parts, just as they come off of the printer, they are still soft and pliable. So yeah, that might be an option. Will I be reviewing the new Creality CR6 SE? Like I said, I usually don't do pre-release stuff. And Joel, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the machine that they sent out, or the machines that I sent out now, are already kind of obsolete because certain funding goals were hit, and now the printers that are actually going to ship out to backers are going to be completely different ones. Or at least upgraded ones and modified ones in a few spots compared to those that people now have. So my point has always been there's no real benefit to reviewing or covering a printer that is not in production yet, because anything that I now find about this machine may just become irrelevant by the point that you can actually buy it. So that goes both ways. So if I find something that I find great about it, they might still change it and they might still mess it up. Anything that I have as a criticism, you can easily brush it off and say, oh yeah, it'll be fixed in the finished model. So yeah, I don't like engaging with pre-release hardware, again, because I don't see the value in that. It's still interesting stuff to see what they're working on, but I would just personally prefer machines that are in a finished state and that you can buy in that same state. Yep. PLA funnels are handy. Okay, what else did I miss? Can you oversize holes and epoxy the inserts in? You should be able. So this is acrylic resin, but epoxy resin should bond to it as well, I think. Somebody has asked whether the Mars Pro will be a good machine to pick up as a first resin printer, and I think it is. I think it is. I mean, you could do much worse than this. Watch paint dry live stream. Let's do that then. You could go way worse in choosing a printer. It doesn't have all the comfort features. It doesn't have like all the fancy tilting stuff that the SL1 does, or it's not the largest printer. But it's a good start, especially for the price. Like if it is actually, well, I don't know what the dollar price is going to do, but like I said, you can pre-order this for $299 once it's available. I know I just talked about pre-ordering stuff, but this thing has been out for a while, but it's just not been available. They didn't make enough of them. So yeah, €299, and I think it should be something along those lines for dollars as well. Yeah, but if you get one, definitely think about a way of curing your parts and washing them, because that's like either you grab a bucket of IPA and you dunk your part in and you shake it around, and that gets messy real quick. And then you need to cure them as well. And you've probably seen the review of where's the button? There it is. You've probably seen my review of the SL1 and CW1, and I think having some sort of nice, even curing setup is really vital to getting good prints and to making that process a bit less involved and stressful. And in these glasses, by the way, they do filter out most of the deeper UV light. So I'm fine, but please don't look into UV light like that. Have I paused to see if anything is on the build plate yet? That's something that the Prusa machine actually doesn't do, but I have been hearing the characteristic noise that a resin print makes when it peels off of the platform. But I think we can actually I don't see anything. What's going on here? I think we can actually pause and lift up and see if there's actually something in there. Would be a shame. That looks like a stop. That looks like a pause. That looks like settings. I'll press pause. Does it move up? It does. Okay, that's convenient. And, well, good thing you're bringing this up now. There actually is nothing on there. There's literally nothing on the build plate. Tilt it back maybe without draining the resin, but there is. That's fantastic. Yeah, I did hear the peels and I was like, hey, this is coming along great. But it is not. Okay. Time to debug. I've already got my gloves on, so could have waited another 4%. Time to debuggeroo. So, oh yeah, I can see the part. I can see part of the part. So if we zoom in here, there's our part. There's the beginning of a part. That is interesting because usually a resin print either fails at the very start or just goes through with no issues. But why did this fail now? So why did this fail now? I mean, exposure time of the first layer was at 45 seconds. Favorite part of resin printing, yeah. There we go. So there is the print that we got. And it actually went pretty far before it came loose. So, okay, let's try this again. What it did print does look good. Let's try that again. And it didn't, yeah, there's nothing on the build plate at all. Let's try and do a re-leveling, I guess. And increase the first layer time, just to get it to stick a bit better. Guess this really isn't all too usable, is it? So, because I don't want to spread resin everywhere, I'm going to grab a fresh set of gloves. That's the thing with resin printing. Like, how many gloves were included here? Like 10 or something? I've already gone through that. Didn't the bottle say 60 seconds for the first layer? Yes. But then Elegoo said it's, in the manual it said, less than 60 seconds is recommended. Enough for the first print? Nah, not really. It's just a few supports. So let's try that again. Let's get this thing back down. I'm not gonna level this with the paper because this is all. Should I? And the FFP film has a thickness as well. You know what? I'm not going to mess with the leveling. I'm just going to increase the. Really don't want to dig into that thing. I'm just going to increase the first layer time slightly. And just reprint it. And I'm actually going to. That screen doesn't work with the gloves on. And I'm actually going to, reset this setup. because I'm not sure what I moved while I was trying to rotate the part. Add a raft. That's where you print the demo file, but I don't want to print the demo file. That's lame. And no, we cannot update because it's not letting us create an account. So we shall scale to 20%. I think that's a bit smaller than what we did before. Settings. So, I mean, that's the default that it's set up with, right? 60 seconds. Because I'm going to save a bit of time, I'm going to drop it down to 6. "53 minutes. Well, that's not what I wanted. Wait, 15. That's a bit too small, isn't it? Oh, that's 15 on top of. Right. That's 15% on top of 100%? On top of 20%? So if I go back to 15, no, it's just gonna scale it down even more. So I'll grab the file again. So scaling in every slicer works differently, where one lets you incrementally scale, and this one apparently is one of those, and others just give you an absolute scale that you can set. So 15%, okay. Overwrite you. Angle the print. And that should be it, right? Come on. Ejecting? You are ejected. Okay. Yeah, it's the one thing that I could do without on resin prints. It's just the fact that you can't. Supports is missing. Good point. It's the fact that you can't see your print. You can't see what's going on unless you specifically pause. And on some printers like the SL1, the Prusa SL1, you can't pause. You cannot pause the print, at least on on the whoops, goodbye. On the firmware versions that I tried. So yeah, the Mars did do that. Yeah, there is a print. The Mars did do that. The Mars Pro does do that as well, and I just forgot to check. But I definitely heard the end. That's what that noise was. I did hear the layers peel away for the first, well, I guess this is, how much is this? 4 millimeters? 5 millimeters? For the first 50 layers, I did hear that noise. But yeah, not anymore. Okay, let's get this print going again. Why are you red? Why are you red now? I can't do red prints. Maybe it remembered that there was something and there's now something, nope, slice. There's now something different. Save. So let's do one swole Pikachu. Thanks for reminding me about the supports. Oh, I guess the preview? Okay. So I'm guessing why are you blurry? I'm guessing that the red text is because it failed, because we stopped the print earlier. And there's no preview because, well, there's no preview. At least there was nothing visible when we exported it. But I'm guessing it should still print, right? So yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this resin print before it spoils. Oh yeah, there's already resin on my table. Fantastic. And I'm going to have to grab some acetone. That's the thing about resin prints. If you aren't careful, you do get resin everywhere. Usually I have just this roll of like packing paper and stuff that I spread over the table, and that would have come in really handy now. I should have done that before I started the print. Oh, got some paper towels. So yeah, we are just we are just back at the start. So the first few layers, yes, we are at 60 seconds, just double checking. The first few layers are going to take 60 seconds to cure. So you're not going to see this thing move for the next 60 seconds, hopefully, if everything goes well. I should probably open a window. And yeah, there we go. That's the first layer. There we go. Let's let some fresh air in. Right, so we're going to let it print for a few layers, and then we can check whether we're actually getting, any output. Is the fumes better than the standard Elegoo? I can neither confirm nor deny that, because I've not compared this guy with the standard Elegoo printer. The thing is, if you have the standard Elegoo printer, the Mars, the normal Mars, so they both have this cover that you leave on the printer for the entire time. There should not be any air circulation from inside where the resin is to the outside world. Like I don't know if there are any gases that come off the resin that expand, but there's even if this doesn't have a seal in there, there shouldn't be any air circulating in and out of the printer. So how much the activated carbon filter does, or actually makes worse by pulling more air through the enclosure, I am not sure. How did it fail? What happened to the last print? So I already checked that out. It just, yeah, the first 50 or so layers worked really well, printed just fine. But at some point it just detached and it was stuck at the bottom of the vat. It did not detach from the FEP film properly, but instead detached from the bed. So that is the new, if you scroll back in the stream, you'll see it. They've got a new texture on this bed where it's a machine surface, or just a circular machine surface, versus the powder coat or something on the old one. And yeah, it's supposed to be holding prints better. In my case, it didn't, but it might just be that we need to crank up the exposure time on these first few layers. Can you use Prusa Slicer with this printer? I don't know. If somebody knows, please let me know. Right. You can use Prusa Slicer. No, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. That's interesting. Yeah, if you are looking for ethanol in I'm not hearing the layers release. That has me worried. If you are looking for ethanol, you can usually get it as like a stove fuel. Brennspiritus is what we call it. So yeah, because ethanol burns very cleanly with just CO2 apparently, and no real harmful gases. It is used in indoor stoves that don't have a chimney. So you can get it as Brennspiritus, and that is basically just ethanol, like 95% or something, or 98%, plus a bittering agent, plus the rest is water or something. Or methanol, I don't know. Have Elegoo quoted a price on a replacement screen for this printer yet? That's a good one because the screen on the SL1 is crazy expensive. So let me check on my favorite shopping website. No, not on de.aliexpress.com. Also not on aliexpress.de. I want aliexpress.com. Go to global site. There we go. So global site. Let me do Elegoo Mars Lcd. There it is. The Sharp 04 LS055R1 SX04 with MIPI for Elegoo Mars 3D printers. So that's what you get. Oh, that's actually genuine Elegoo. Okay. So if you want one, you pay 30 bucks with free shipping, or if you want two, you pay 56 bucks with free shipping. So this is the 1440p by 2560 RGB screen. There you go. There's the screen, and it is the exact same one in the Mars and the Mars Pro and the Mars. So it's the exact same screen. I'm thinking. Slightly different in mounting? Oh, come on. Thicker glass? Come on. Why did they need to change that? But, okay, I mean, if it is... Here's the thing. Even if it is a slightly thicker glass or a slightly different mounting system, there's no real reason why it would be any different in price than the 30 bucks that we're seeing for the regular Mars, screen. What about UV LED array? Is it the same? It is. So that's one of the big differences between the regular Mars and the Mars Pro is this uses a UV LED array. We saw that earlier in the video where it's like 15 millimeter or so, or 20 millimeter chunks that are exposed by one LED, whereas the regular Mars, I keep pointing it, Mars is over here, uses just a single LED in the reflectors. So I don't think those are compatible. I mean, if the screen itself already isn't compatible, like there's no reason why the UV LED array would be compatible at all. So let me see if we got something printing. We are at 9%, so we should have at least something that is visible. Is that a print? Is that a print or is that not a print? That is a print. You guys seeing that? Don't want to tilt it. Oh, I guess I can still tilt it back. Nah, you guys are not going to see that. But there is a print. There is a print on there, so we can keep going. I'm not hearing the layers release, but that might just be because it's a bit more scaled down than the one we did earlier. Sticking face right in there. Yeah, I didn't get any resin on my face, so. And I've got the window open. Resin printers are the future. What print shooter this contains MEK and T9, which is the contains MEK? Wow. I mean, it works for me. Yes, that is something that I'm going to be, again, in the 3D Printing Basics series that is going to start publishing next week. That's one of the things that I'll be covering. Like, should you just skip FDM and just go for resin instead? Well, why you don't need to? There you go. And you know, my point of view is still like, look at me. I'm in gloves. I've got resin everywhere. I've got a separate. If you buy this thing separately, it's like $700. I've got a separate 600 euro device just to post-process my parts. You can get the Anycubic curing station. That's another $100. It's just there's so many things that you need to do right and do safely about resin printers. And the fact that you can't watch them, and the fact that the resin is expensive and failing is expensive. I still think for big parts and for beginners and for just getting into 3D printing, a filament printer for the most part is going to be a better choice for most people. I mean, not for everyone, obviously. If you're doing super high detailed miniatures, then a resin printer is the way to go, obviously. But you will need to know that yes, it takes a bit of extra effort to just get from my part is done in the printer to I have a part that I can use. So yeah, they have their application. They're great machines for what they are. They do great high detail and high strength stuff with the right resins, but they're just not the most beginner friendly machines that I could think of. Who said, yeah, David bought an Anycubic wash and cure. How is that working out for you? I've been looking at that. Let me know if that's something that you would recommend. Yeah, it's like a lathe and a mill. They do a similar job, but you usually use one instead of the other. That's great, yeah. Like you use one for certain things that you wouldn't use the other for. I mean, you can technically mill on a lathe, but you kind of wouldn't. So it's the same with resin versus FDM. They both have their applications. And yeah, you are going through gloves, which is why I bought these big Uvex thicker gloves at some point, thinking I could reuse them. But once you get resin on them, it's like, do you really want to spend the time on cleaning them? So what I just got are these 200 packs of gloves, and I guess one per bottle of resin is kind of realistic if you're still trying things out. Once you've got your process down and you just chuck it into a curing station and that works for you, you are not using that many anymore, but it's still a lot of waste. Curing washing station is only $100. So the Anycubic curing station I think is around $200. I just saw that recently. This Prusa CW1, if you don't buy it as a set with the SL1, is crazy expensive. Ridleys of Zibis is asking about whether to get the original Mars or the Mars Pro. That's a tough one. So based on I've done a full review on the Mars, and I've only gotten my initial impressions of the Mars Pro because obviously I just took this thing out of the box. They are very similar machines still. I mean, they're the same basic everything. And the Mars itself is not a bad machine. The Mars itself is a machine that you can definitely use. The Z-axis rail kind of doesn't make a difference because the one on the Mars is really good as well. The stronger UV lights or the more consistent UV array might be a point for you where you say, okay, I've got larger prints and I kind of don't want that inconsistency. What else? USB port in the front. I mean, so far, to be honest, there's nothing, yeah, and the filter obviously. There's nothing jumping out at me and going like, hey, get the Pro for sure. You should only get the Pro, and the other one is not worth getting. Considering the Pro is probably going to cost around 300 bucks, 300 euros that is for me, and the regular Mars costs around 220 or so. That's 2 kilograms of resin. I don't know, I think I would rather go for more materials and just use the machine more. Instead of going for the Pro. But that obviously is up to you. The filter might be something you definitely want because you're using it in an environment where the smell is an issue and you can't just open a window or something. So yeah, Pro has the filter, which is useful. I mean, I can still smell the resin, and you are still gonna get the resin outside of the enclosure. You're still going to be using the. You still need to take the print off. You still need to open this thing up and check on your parts. You still need to fill the resin in. So you're still going to get a bit of resin vapor escaping. Shouldn't the Pro be faster? Yeah, slightly. But then again, I think somebody was asking that quite a while ago. The thing is, I don't think the Mars is a slow printer either. I don't think SLA machines in general are slow machines. It's the fact that you can fill up the bed to as large of a, well, you can make use of the entire bed space and not get any sort of speed penalty. So you know, if you have larger prints, and an SLA printer is actually faster, kind of counterintuitive because you'd think, hey, you know, an SLA printer is something you'd use for smaller machines, but in fact, when you print larger stuff with it, it actually has a huge speed advantage over FDM because it just exposes the entire layer at once. So on typical parts, like the size of a 3D printer or something, an SLA printer is ever so slightly slower than an FDM machine, but it's basically on par. And yeah, it's very usable either way. What does the resin smell like? I imagine it's smelling like pine. No, because pine is a pleasant smell. Pine is, it's nice. How does resin smell? How does resin smell? How do you even describe a smell? I guess it's like chemical burn, chemical fire, like something. Yeah, if you take a ABS kind of smells nice if you burn it too. It has that sweet smell to it, but this is more like an acidic, burnt chemicals kind of smell. Super glue, kind of, yeah. Super glue kind of goes into that same direction, but maybe here we go. If you've ever smelled an electronic device catching on fire, so a burnt PCB with components on it, it's kind of in that direction. Yeah, burnt rubber, something like that. I mean, good point. So yeah, it's not a pleasant smell, like pine or any sort of wood. I like that smell. That's pleasant. But this stuff is more like chemical plant failing. Does it smell like acetone? No, not at all. Acetone is like a fresh, well, solvent smell. It's a solvent. Acetone to me has a fresh smell. This is more like burnt. So, yeah, new car? No. Well, I guess acrid. Yeah, two-part epoxy. Yeah, well, it's a resin, right? Epoxy is resin, so they're very similar. Let's check again what the print is doing with 36%. Like a burning A8? I guess, yeah. You lifting? Do you even lift, bro? There we go. Doesn't make you cough or your eyes water like super glue. No, it just makes your throat hurt. But I've been having that with resin smells for a while. There's a part. Oh, I see it. Okay, we good. We good. We good? Oh, you have to wait until it's all the way up. Okay, it's printing. Does it smell anything like silicone sealant? No. I guess if you would burn silicone sealant, it would be that smell. Okay, what else did we... Is the fume dangerous, or is it just unpleasant? I cannot make a qualified comment on that. It's probably not healthy. I mean, I'll tell you that much. But how unhealthy it is, not sure. I would guess, like, don't breathe it for extended amounts of or periods of time. But don't use it in a closed room, that sort of thing. But if you get a whiff of it, you're not going to instantly fall over and die. New Zealand style dick sealant. I've never used that, so I would not know. Okay, what else do we want to talk about here? I think that there were still a few things that that I had missed. Yeah, the filter does not recirculate. That's a good point. Yeah, you can kind of see the grid back here. So all the filter does is it sucks air out of this entire enclosure box and blows it out the bottom. So unless I'm missing something, unless it's like specifically set up to like suck air through the motor hole, which we can probably see somewhere, I'm thinking it's actually just sucking air out and exhausting it. I will need to look into that and see how it actually circulates. What is more likely to fail, a single large UV LED or the array of small ones? Good question, Lucas. So the way that these things are usually wired up is there's a few chips in series and a few in parallel. So what's going to happen is if one chip fails, usually you lose the entire string. So on a cob LED, let me grab a pen real quick. Nah, that's a marker. That's not really useful for that. If you have... If you have a top-facing camera, so the old one has just a cob LED, which probably is about that size, and you can see like individual rows of LEDs in that. And usually all of these LEDs, at least in like one block and another block and another block, these will all be in series. Can you even see that? Let me hold it into that camera. There we go. So you're going to have a cob LED that has like individual strings of LEDs. So there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. So if one of those LED chips fails, usually it will take out one entire string of LEDs. But the other two, or however many there are in there, those are still going to keep working. So you will still be able to use that LED. You're just going to have to crank up your exposure times. Now, if you have an array of LEDs, let's say this is like the same thing. There. Like each of those squares is an LED. If one of them, let's say this one up here fails, say this one there fails, and they are wired the same way, where this is a string, and this is a string, and this is a string, what I think is going to happen, if that is actually how that's wired, is you're going to lose an entire section of the bed. So, like these areas are still going to be working perfectly, more or less. Well, maybe they're going to be oven driven as well. But like this one section will be dark. That's how I imagine it's going to work. But of course that depends on how exactly this is all wired up, how the circuits work in this, and how it's all set up. But yeah, my thinking is with a cob LED and a reflector like it is in the old Mars, you're not going to lose certain areas entirely. You're just going to get a degraded experience. With an array like this, you're going to lose a complete area of your print bed. Yeah. Cool. And while I was talking about all that, chat really did, you guys really did a great job handling questions. What do you do with used IPA? That is a good one. So the IPA in this guy, obviously, it's probably settled down already. Let me see. Nope, still milky, but you can kind of see down there now. The IPA, first of all, it does get saturated with the stuff that's in resin, aka monomers, the photo initiators, all the stuff that makes this resin work. And then also little tiny bits of cured resin that just flakes out like that. So I did a bit of research, and apparently you can just turn it into your recycling centers if you have any near you, or a hazardous waste collection, and they will treat it just as solvent. So you just hand this in as solvent, they'll take it, usually it's free. At least here it is free to hand in your used solvents and stuff, and that's the end of that. Can you recover it and get the resin out? Probably, but I've never done that, and I don't know how well that's going to work. What do you think about the Peopoly Phenom? Not used it. No opinion. You guys are hearing that. That's a good noise. That crack is when it's just peeling off. How long will this be live? Until we get this print done and washed and shown to you. Nuclear waste is usually deadly. Not so much resin unless you take a bath in liquid resin and sit for days. I would call that bad advice. Because the thing with resin is, it's not going to kill you, probably. But if you get your immune system sensitized to the monomers and to the resins, it's going to f you up real good. So it may be fine to get resin onto your skin, onto your body, for months or years. But eventually what your immune system is going to do, from what I know, is it is going to develop a sensitivity to that resin. And from there on out, for the rest of your life, whenever you get in contact with that resin again, you're going to get a really severe reaction. So that can go from, hey, my throat kind of hurts. Whenever I smell resin, I can feel it in my throat, to you're actually going to fall over and black out. So yeah, that's kind of the deceiving part about resin, is you can get it on your skin and nothing's going to happen. But if you continuously do it, and if you repeat that, and you're just going to build towards that sensitivity, and at some point it's going to be like, well, that's it, you will never be able to handle resin again. So yes, just be safe, wear gloves whenever possible, use your PPE. It's really for your own good. Is FDM or resin more harmful to your health? Well, the thing is, once the parts are done, once you have cured resin and once you have a printed FDM part, both are perfectly safe to handle. You can, don't recommend it, but in theory, you can eat and ingest both cured resin prints and, filament prints, and they're just going to pass right through you. But when it comes to the printing, resin is probably the nastier option of both. Ah, that noise is nice. Do you get the same amount of prints from a kilo of resin as you would from a kilo of PLA if you were printing the same model? So there are a few things that go into this. The first obvious one is density. Well, yeah, sure. Because you're asking about kilograms and not about cc's or cubic centimeters, liters, or anything like that. PLA is relatively dense. I think density, if I remember correctly, is 1.28 kilograms per liter. And resin is a bit below that at like 1.1. So from a kilogram of resin, you actually get more volume. The other thing that goes into that is what is your infill looking like? On a filament printer, you always print with a solid shell, and then on the inside you have sparse infill, typically like, 15%, 20%, something like that. On a resin print, you can either hollow out your part, which is a manual step. You can use the infill that is now in Shitterbox, which we'll not look at right now, but there is an option to generate infill like that as well. Or what is typically done is printing solid. And if you print solid, obviously that's going to use more resin. If you print hollow, that's going to use less resin. And it really depends on how you set up your prints and what your prints look like, what the geometry looks like. Either one can be more material efficient. Like if you print with SLA with a really thin shell, that's not going to use as much material as if you print with filament and have a lot of infill and a thicker shell. Yeah. Can you make food-safe parts with resin? I'm not sure if there are resins that are specifically rated for food contact. I mean, it's one thing if it's just brief contact, if it's like a spoon or something, or if it's actually a food container that's like continuously in contact with food and has time to leach something into your food, into your stuff that you're going to ingest. With resin and with filament prints, you can always coat them with a food-safe clear coat, for example. So that is one option that you can do for anything that may have contact with foodstuffs. And yes, there are resins for medical stuff. Good point, Daniel. There are dental resins. Do those make finished parts, or do those just make the investment parts that are then being cast into something? Not sure. Okay. Yes, and Yup3 is making a good point when going back to how much material they're going to be using. With LCD printers, hollowing out doesn't decrease print time at all. That is true. That is true. Like I said, the print time per layer is always the same. I mean, it's 8 seconds. That's recommended. We're now at 6. The print time per layer is always the same. So it doesn't matter how much or how little is of material is being cured per layer. It's just, that fixed time frame. Well, okay, guys, I'm gonna refill my water here real quick. I will switch you over to the top-mounted mic. That's this camera's perspective, and I will be back in a quick second. Right there. Let's party. Nope. Nope. No, you won't. Okay. Okay, we're back. Cookie cutters. I mean, for cookie cutters and stuff, you can use I mean, I'm not officially going to recommend it, but I personally would use almost any material. I don't have any resin on my gloves, do I? No, it's just water. Do I wait for the Saturn or the Mars Pro? Well, if you need a larger printer, you go for the Saturn. If you're okay with a small one, you go for the Mars or Pro. Okay, we are at 77%. That screen is kind of overblown. That screen is not the best, I gotta say. Like, oh yeah, there. That should make it readable, right? Should buy the Prusa Mark 3S or wait for the Prusa XL? Yeah, same question, I guess. A lot of dental resins are for casting, but there are some that are for supports to be used during surgery. Okay, haven't seen any suitable to be in the mouth permanently. You won't like the price. Yeah, anything medical, dental, that's kind of a guarantee that it is going to be expensive. Tony Visser, anecdotal experience about getting exposure to polyester resin from boat building. I feel like that is actually a very common thing that people are doing boat building, doing laminating glass fiber, and yeah. Well, fiberglass, it's interesting. It got super itchy anytime I got near fiberglass. So yeah, fiberglass is another thing because it's the small fibers that kind of bury in your skin. I do get that now whenever I work with fiberglass or glass fiber, I guess in that case it is, with glass fiber insulation around the house. I always go like full bodysuit as much as possible because I'll be itchy for the rest of the day. Does YouTube chat actually have a filter for supporters? Because I know mods can post links, but I'm not sure if supporters can. Actually, you know what? Here, upgrade real quick. There we go. Hey! Well, folks, people obviously now can because just switch to sheep's wool or recycled polyester. Yeah, but that's more expensive, isn't it? Cool. Welcome aboard as Mox Foxapillow. I mean, you've been very helpful in chat. I mean, that's worth a wrench, right? Imagine knocking the USB drive out when it's 99%. Yeah, so that it does actually. You can see the drive kind of blinking every now and then with its red LED. It does stream and read. Yeah, you saw it. There, you can see it. You can see that it's actually streaming off of the USB drive. So every new layer it is reading in. I guess it's buffering one layer in advance or something. But yeah, this thing does need to be connected, and I'm kind of worried that it's such a long USB stick that they're including, especially now that it's at the front. On the old one, on the Mars, it wasn't much of an issue because it was just at the back, and there's no way you'd be knocking that off. But now it's at the front. If you're just preparing tools or something and you knock that out, there goes your print. And it does not. Yeah, it does not buffer your files anymore. So, question from somebody was asking about the Prusa SLA just now. Here we go. Chad was asking about the Prusa SL1 that actually has Prusa resin in it. So first of all, the Prusa SL1 is a lot heavier. There we go. I mean, they're all using pretty much the same screen size, if not the exact same screen. So Prusa, will you open up, please? That's advantage number one. Like you get the nice swiveling cover. That is nice. Versus having to lift this one off. Either one works. Like, don't get me wrong, but this is just a nice feature. Prusa has the big feature that it is a swiveling. It's in a lock position, and I just got resin on my glove. That it has that swiveling screen. So on some prints, I believe, like larger ones and stuff, you do have, you do get the parts to peel more easily from the FEP. So something like what we just saw early on, where the part stuck to the FEP and released from the build plate, in theory, that is less likely to happen on the SL1. I also don't know how much more or less effective the filter in the SL1 is. SL1 also has Wi-Fi and Ethernet. Also has a nicer screen, bigger screen too. Yeah, and the slicer is different. So you use Prusa slicer with this one, versus Shitterbox with the Mars. So I guess one advantage you could say is that Prusa slicer is developed by Prusa, so it's always going to be optimized specifically for this machine. It's always going to stay available for free. You're always going to get the updates for free. You don't need to register for anything, unless what we saw earlier on with Shitterbox, where I literally can't download the new version because it's not letting me register. And apparently there might also be at some point a Pro version. I don't think Prusa is going to, at any point go like, hey, by the way, you have to pay for a slicer now. That would be a dick move. But yeah, they are very similar machines in size and specs. The Prusa is a more premium machine, and obviously, yeah, this. I think I've touched on that in the SL1 review as well. It's like the printer itself is such a small gear in the entire SLA. I was going to say S1, the entire SLA workflow, where this thing is a much bigger deal to me than whether I'm using a Mars Pro or an SL1. For the time that I've been using the SL1, it's been really good. I mean, I've had a few prints that like didn't stick well and all that, but overall it's been a good experience. Overall, my experience with the Mars has also been really good. But having a curing station like this, I think any curing station, I'm not sure if you need the CW1 or if the Anycubic one is good as well. That's going to make such a big difference in how usable SLA is. For me, without a curing station, SLA just never was something that I naturally did. Because you have to have the solvent set up to wash it. You have to have a way to cure them. Either that's outside in the sun and risk getting the parts browned, or with a UV LED and then manually. It's just a hassle, I think, and that makes SLA printing so much more convenient. Oh, print is done. We almost made it, almost. So yeah, that really is the bigger thing in SLA, I think. So yeah, that's gonna be, I'm not gonna reprint this. So apparently it did separate again. You can see it sticking out. You can see it sticking out right there. I'm not gonna reprint it. I heard the layer releases throughout the print. Where did I put there it is. So I'm thinking like at least a good part of it is done. Some part of it is done. something is done. I don't know about you guys, but that's the legs. So I'm gonna toss this into the IPA real quick and get it washed and see what we got. But yeah, that might just be a leveling thing. It might be that this new machine surface isn't that great. Let me just check this in here and get it washed real quick and see what we got. Goodbye. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wipe this entire table down when I'm done. He was standing on a base, yes. Start washing. Lid goes back on. Do you have the bare metal build plate? This is the bare metal build plate as included in the Mars Pro. So classic Mars uses this coated, textured build plate. Mars Pro uses... Oh, we still have the supports on here. That's interesting. So those still printed. Those still printed. So the part just... Wait. So the part actually split? I guess then we should have increased the exposure time. Because this is with 6 seconds exposure. Let me see how... Yeah, these aren't super undercured. Yeah, I guess slightly higher exposure time would have helped here. So I need to remember to remove that before the next print. Supports were too thin. Well, the supports were the default supports, which I've always experienced to be too thick on the Mars. I don't know. Also, technically, if you have like paper towels that have resin on them, those are also hazardous waste. So you shouldn't just, you know, you shouldn't chuck those in the trash. 6 seconds is too low. Well, it's supposed to be a high power printer, so exposure times between printers, between something like the Mars Pro and the Mars, you can't really compare. Yeah, the resin says 8 seconds, the default was 6 seconds. Yeah. Since the part did not cure to a strength that was sufficient, I guess we should just crank the exposure time a bit. I will retry tomorrow, but right now it is 9:45 p.m. and I just want to get some sort of a print out of this thing before I call this stream over for today. Where did I put my knife? So this is going to be a bit messy, unfortunately, because we do have to use the washing basket, and I can't really use the convenient clip-in method from the SL1, where you just have your what the hell even is that? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's the glue coming out. That is interesting. Okay, we will look at that later. So yeah, we do need to use this fryer basket. And there's our print. Actually, oh, there it is, got it. What even is you? Is that legs? Okay, do we need to cure this? I don't think so. So for visual inspection, I think we can just go ahead and have a look at the uncured but washed print. So let's zoom all the way in. Let's zoom in even further. And there is our print. Perhaps. There you go. There is our little tiny print. Now, if it did stick to the build plate, I would say that's a good print. You can see a bit of the aliasing. Because I mean, 50 micron pixels doesn't sound like much, but if you have prints that are such, and it's such a tiny, should I be holding this upside down? I think so, right? Yeah, that's the legs. Okay. So it's a print, it prints. The print settings aren't perfect yet. As far as the machine goes, I guess it's just, it's really similar to the Mars because it is more or less the same machine. It just has a few extra features. And at this point, it is up to you whether that support is stuck in a very inconvenient place. At this point, it's just up to you whether you want those extra features or not. And whether you think you want to wait for the... look at that. Look at that scale. There's a finger for you. You can see the apps. So this is upside down. It's just up to you whether you want to wait for the Pro to become available or say, hey, I mean, the Mars is cheaper. It does everything I needed to. Yeah, print quality on this guy, I mean, it's good. It's an SLA print. What did you really expect? SLA prints usually look really, really good. And you can see, yeah, it is clear resin. You can see inside the print there. But that's what we got. That's what we got. Unfortunately, it did get detached. Like I said, that might just be print settings. But yeah, the real, I mean, just for scale, like I guess on this camera it shows that's how large that print is. This is how large of a part we just made. So detail is great. Just from my own eyes, I'm not seeing any flaws so far, other than the fact that it's like half gone. It's a good machine. If you want more detail about the machine, you can watch my full review of the Mars. And just to add on, it has a different Z-axis, it has a different bed coating and UV LEDs that are stronger, as well as that filter that I'm not sure yet how much it actually does. You know, that's that. Yeah, this was 0.1 millimeter layers to make it a bit faster. You can go down to 0.01, supposedly, according to the instructions. 0.01? Yes, 0.01. Not sure why you would do that when you get that sort of detail on 0.1 already. And layers on SLA aren't really the same layers as on filament, because a 0.1 millimeter layer height on a filament printer, you would still see the layers. They would be hard to make out, but you still see them. On these, because the layers aren't like such bulbous shapes, they aren't like round on, you know, that they don't bulge out. They're really just more of a straight edge. Yeah, a 0.1 millimeter layer height can already be good enough. Cool. I think that is pretty cool. What is your FDM printer suggestion with an €800 budget? Maybe. How much of a competition there? Anyways, yeah, I think that's going to be it for this one. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for coming along for the ride. If everything goes well, stay tuned for tomorrow's stream, which is going to be the Prusa Mini unboxing. It's the first time I get my hands on one of those machines. And they're apparently, they're cranking up production after being a bit shut down for COVID-19, obviously. So yeah, the machines do have a bit of a lead time, but you can order them, at least. Yeah, on the Mars Pro, like I said, it's the Mars with a few Pro features, but it is a very similar printer, and the Pro was a good machine, so I have no doubts that with a better layer time setting, this is going to print nice as well. But again, for SLA printers, the accessories and the processing equipment, I think, makes much more of a difference. So, wow, Prusa Minis there's a used black market for Prusa Minis? $650 for an unboxed one? Wow, okay. Economics, man. Okay, that's gonna be it for me for today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for keeping me company. Thank you for being nice and civilized and helpful in chat. That always makes these live streams a lot more fun, I think, for both sides. But where's my button? There's my button. I'm going to press it in a second. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice evening, day, whatever it is for you, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow, maybe, right? All right, bye.